between the borders. See, we stopped doing that. We don't have any dialogue going on that we know of. That we're saying, then we just keep writing the checks. And we keep saying it's okay for you to keep our Marine. So there needs to be, you know, I don't have some magic fairy dust to sprinkle over the situation. I'm just saying, what working, after all, you know, we have a plethora of people who believe that you can talk your way out of any problem. That you don't need to act, you need to just simply sit down and have a kumbaya moment.
That's our president.
I'm just saying that we need to use every opportunity to stop this lawlessness, is what I'm saying. And Sheriff Arpaio, I think that whether people like everything he says and everything he does have some experience with it.
Would it be feasible for private funds to be raised to provide the necessary communications equipment for border agents, in the same way private funds are raised for night vision equipment?
We're looking at that. There's a couple of options. Actually, the Clear Lake Tea Party and Pearland Tea Party Sugarland, some of those groups last week had a fundraiser for the Texas Border Volunteers, and I think that they raised over $10,000 for them, which is enormous for them, and I applaud them for doing that. So that's for a private group. But what I have done is I've asked Sean Moran to let us know if their association, if their union, and I know we don't like, let me just tell you, in this case, the union's on our side, okay? And so to ask the Border Patrol Union if they can accept donations. I think that's the only way that you could do that, and then the equipment would be owned by the union. Now, I'm pretty sure that there's probably there's some, you know, federal loophole that says they can't use equipment that's not certified or some such nonsense, but that's why I'm asking Sean, how can we help you? And so once I get that answer from him, and he responded yesterday, he was having to drive all day. He had lost his grandmother, and so he said he would get back with me after he got back from the funeral. So I will let you guys know.
When will the 1,000 volunteer National Guard personnel be dispatched to the border? Will they be armed to be able to protect themselves?
Yes, I've been told that they are armed to protect themselves. And I think probably at least, what, 75% of them are down there now, Joe? I think about 75% are in place now.
Do you think we should use the Texas Guard to secure our border? Why do you think Rick Perry is not securing our border?
Okay, I can't, I'm not going to comment on the content of somebody's heart. I'll just say that there's a long distance between what he said he's doing and what is actually being done. Now, do I think that the state guard can be used? Yes. I think that military, U.S. military that are retired, that have been pink slipped by the federal government, I think those are people that are ready, field ready. I think there are opportunities. I think there are people out there who are physically fit, you know, and they have to do all the tests. I mean, they're going to do a psychological profile. They're going to do the physical. You know, you have to meet some requirements. But the requirements to be in what is called in our state constitution, the Texas military, the governor makes that determination, and there is a way to do that. And there are people, I think, who would be ready to serve.
Okay. The second part was, why do you think Rick Perry is not securing the border?
Well, I'll just tell you, let me say it like this. For one thing, it's politically incorrect. I mean, there are a lot of people with deep, deep pockets that I call, you know, the open borders, cheap labor crowd. And they, frankly, in Texas Association of Business, I might as well just go ahead and say that, Bill Hammond, and all those folks are on record saying that they want a comprehensive immigration, you know, and they do not stand with us to focus on the danger of a wide open border. if they ever once came out in support of law enforcement and even acknowledged that DPS has given us these reports that show how dangerous and that this is the #1 threat that DPS faces. If those business people ever once seem to be at all concerned about that, I wouldn't be as hard on them. But I always hear the other side. Oh, these are just well-intentioned people who are just coming here for a better life. Okay, well that's fine, and I know that's part of it. But you can't tell me that 99% of everybody that's coming over the border has the best of intentions, because DPS says otherwise. And I'm going to tell you, I've heard it straight out of Colonel McCraw's mouth in hearings. They've said maybe 20% of the border crossers are these women and children, truly minor children. Because you do know that Border Patrol has to accept whatever a border crosser says. If you've got a young man sitting in front of you that you think is probably 22 years old, and he says he's 15, well, he's 15. To the federal government, he's 15. And Border Patrol can't do anything about it. They classify him as a minor and they move on. I'm telling you that the cards are stacked against the people who want to enforce the law. So I don't believe there's any way that Governor Perry could not know these things. I don't believe that there's any way that we could have these DPS reports about the cartels running all over the state. Governor Perry has a lot of staff that are paid pretty good bucks to watch media accounts and to inform him. And I can't imagine that he would not know how grave the situation is. I wish that he would have done what he promised he would do, and that is to at least ban sanctuary cities. Because he said back in 2011 that it was an emergency. Well, we're sitting here in 2014 and we still have sanctuary cities. And that's where these criminals hide out, because law enforcement in those areas are not allowed to check legal status or even inquire about it. They're prohibited.
Since Greg Abbott is not doing everything he can to secure our border, do you believe we should vote for Libertarian Kathy Glass over Republican Greg Abbott for Texas governor in November to send a message?
Let me say this. The Board of Directors of Grassroots America is going to take everything into consideration whenever it looks at when we release our endorsements. I believe that General Abbott has an opportunity to do more. The people of Texas are going to ask him to do more.
Where can we get or read the plan?
It's on our website. It was emailed out with links, and it's on our website.
Can a sheriff at county level deal with illegals if the state officials don't yet?
Yeah. Sure can.
Issues being hidden or delayed until after the election. Why aren't these tactics brought up as denying the debate is denying the vote?
Well, it is brought up, but it's not, you don't hear it from the main, let me just say that there are some media outlets in Texas, there are some newspapers in Texas that have done stories, there are some radio stations that have done stories. A lot of the grassroots Tea Party activist leaders are interviewed all the time. There are different pockets of the state where the media seem to be more interested in it than others. This has been raised. I was asked point blank by Austin American Statesman, a reporter a really good guy who happens to be from Tyler, used to live in Tyler. He asked me, he said, JoAnn, why do you think the politicians don't want to do anything until after November? I said, it's called political consultants. Political consultants. And they listen to political consultants instead of listening to the people. And the doggone awful thing about it is that those political consultants get paid a whole lot of money to give our elected officials some really bad advice. Namely, Governor Perry hiring Henry Barber and Mr. Schmidt, who declared war on grassroots conservatives and have even defended their race-baiting tactics in the Mississippi election to steal that election from Chris McDaniel. So I'll just tell you, my mom and daddy used to tell me, still tell me when I am sitting around listening to them, you're known by the company you keep. And any politician, in fact, we've had some local races where we've had candidates do some of the worst, pull some of the dirtiest tricks you've ever seen. And when they're confronted, they go, well, I didn't make that decision, my political consultant did. Well, who wrote the check to your political consultant? See, anybody who won't take ownership for that kind of thing and wants to point the finger, they don't deserve the office. You need to be able to stand by the work product that the people working for you are putting out. So if you're happy to, if you've got people working for you that are happy that they used race baiting to steal an election, just gotta say, I think you've got some bad, probably some faulty decision-making points going on in your brain and in your heart. Yeah.
Can we get Greg Abbott here before November to address grassroots and take questions?
Nope. Already asked. Ask and ask and ask and ask.
It says, is this question too outlandish? If Texas doesn't have the funds, what about appealing to the other 49 states to contribute for a wall, not a fence?
Well, okay, first of all, we got to talk about, I don't know how much it would cost to build the amount of the wall that we need. I don't have any idea. I do know that we have a whole lot of money coming into this state from oil and gas. And in fact, we have so much money coming in to the rainy day fund that they're all sitting around rubbing their hands together and salivating over what in the world they're going to do with the surplus that spills over into the general fund. So I'm going to tell you, anybody that tells you we can't afford to secure our own border by putting, I'm going to say it, boots on the ground, that have been given the right orders, anybody that says we can't afford that wants to overlook the fact that we waste a whole heck of a lot of money on overlapping, duplicated departments, agencies, and programs, and Hollywood subsidies, and corporate welfare, and all kinds of stuff. Because I guarantee you that if you put activists looking at that budget, do you believe we could find the money to secure the border? And besides that, what is most important? What is above security? Only liberty. Okay, only liberty. And we're not going to have liberty if we keep having lawlessness.
What has been the general reaction by the legislature to the plan, and do you have a state representative who will carry the bill for the plan to the legislature?
Well, see, what we're asking for is a special session. And only the governor can call a special session. And so that is the first time that the legislature could act. So have we had some state reps asking for a special session? Yes. And they signed on to a letter. And what they heard back was the sound of crickets from the governor's office, okay? Now, based on our plan, we've sent it out to several state reps, and they're looking at it and saying they're all going to have a copy of it. And they're all going to be asked to either weigh in on it by supporting it, rejecting parts of it, but whatever it is you reject, you need to tell us what you're going to put in its place. So, we're going to see if we can't get some people on board with us. And Dan Patrick, I'm working on him right now. Ray, I blind copied you on something I sent Dan this morning.
Biff gave me that.
he'd like to make a statement.
Oh, Ray, you want to make a statement?
I just want to make a short.
Here, let me bring you the microphone.
Yeah. Oh, and it's time to go.
Folks, we're living in some pretty terrible times, and JoAnn is telling you the truth. We really do need to think about what's going on. Now, all of you know about social media. Every one of you know about social media. And every one of you in here that I can see are just about my age or older, somewhere in that neighborhood, and we all have grandkids. Now, think about the elementary schools in the Tyler area and out in the surrounding areas. Those little schools are not secure. And we're dealing with terrible people. Now, I don't want to get into this because my wife made me shut up whenever I started to put this on Facebook the other day. But I really get upset whenever I think about what's going on our border and how open it is. And we've got nearly 75% of our border, or more, 75% of our border wide open. Now think about social media, and you think about what you've been seeing on social media about these people cutting people's heads off and things like that. You've seen that, haven't you? It's going on, and all you got to do is look at it. I don't want to see one of our little elementary school kids in a YouTube. You know where I'm going with this? In a YouTube by one of these cartel members with a head cut off or something like that. That's where this group is going with this stuff. Now, is it going to take something like that to wake up you and our state legislature and our president and our governor? Now, that could happen, and if it does, think about how you'd feel. I know how I'd feel. I wouldn't be standing here telling you that if I didn't. We're dealing with a terrible, terrible situation, and it's time we woke up. Thank you very much, Joe.
Thanks, Ray. Y'all need to know that Ray and his wife are both retired from public education. They know of what they speak. They certainly do. Well, thank y'all so much for being here. What do we need to do about the tables?